Hey YouTubers! Welcome to another episode of Tarvin's Hill. I'm Tarvin. On today's episode, I'll be sharing the text message from Dad. I was honestly back and forth on whether or not to even record this episode, but in light of the current political climate, I decided this message was just too timely not to share. So let's take a look at and listen to the text, and then I'll give you my review.
Finally wrote this down. The Beatles. I believe the Beatles are the best rock band who have ever played. Here goes. I remember Beatlemania. They were huge. Suddenly they stopped touring and the world didn't hear from them for a year. Their money was held up in their holding company. They went to Scotland and recorded Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. This album changed everything. Nobody had ever heard music like this. They recorded on 4-track equipment. Music today is 17 and 18-track. A full orchestra played with them. The last song on the album is A Day in the Life and has the longest recorded note in history. They lined up 17 baby grand pianos and ran a microphone down them. Here is where all gets interesting. On the album cover, you'll see John, Paul, George and Ringo dressed in the Sgt. Pepper's uniforms looking straight ahead. On the other side are the old Beatles, dressed in black. Paul was Ringo's best friend. Paul has his arm around Ringo and they're looking down at a grave. On the grave is a wreath of a left-handed bass guitar, which is what Paul had played. There's a hand above Paul's head and everyone in the background is dead. This continues on to Abbey Road, which is the last album they made. On the album cover, they're walking across Abbey Road. I have the print hanging in my living room. John is first. He's dressed in white. He's the preacher. Ringo is second. He's dressed in black. He's the pallbearer. Paul is third. He's dressed in a suit. George is last. He's dressed in jeans. He's the grave digger. John, Ringo and George are in step with their shoes on. Paul is out of step with his shoes off. The license plate in the background says LWW28IF 28 if he had lived. Paul McCartney was killed in his Aston Martin outside Abbey Road Studios when he was 27. British intelligence became involved, for if the world had found out he had died, teenagers all over the world would be killing themselves. They were that popular. His name is only mentioned once on the first S.
Alright, here goes. I'll give message a 3/4. It was a poignant reminder of a time when conspiracy theories were harmless and sometimes even true, such as the case of Jerry Fletcher, the subject of a documentary I watch. I think it's time that we finally agree that the real Paul died many years ago so we can finally start the grieving process. Thanks, Dad.
Grand slam, bro.